Hello everyone, my name is FlareBlitzed and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. One more route left to go through in the game. Whether she is the best girl or not, I'm not sure. It's a toss up between Lilly and Hanako at this point in time for me. But let's get right into it. Go for a walk into town. Rather than going to the library, going on the Hanako route, let's go for a walk into town. Following Hanako to the library seems a bit intrusive, but there's a reason she left the classroom after all. And that aside, I do want to counter it with Lilly. This is a matter of confirmation itself. At the very least, I'd like to thank her for looking out for me despite her other, obviously taxing duties. I guess I'll walk around town. With any luck, I should be able to find Lilly. The exercise will do me some good as well. More adventure-ish. Walking through the school courtyard to the gate, I gave a small nod to a couple of passing classmates with gesture being returning kind. Here from here, the shouts of the sport club members can be heard. From the sheer volume of the den, the track must be packed right now. I remember what Lilly said yesterday about being dropped right in the middle, into the middle of a busy time at the school. Well, I try to get my bearings and catch up on study, but I've missed. Everyone else is doing normal school duties, activities, but still. The feeling of being a foreigner still hasn't dissipated, at least not yet. Nobody is a foreign here after all. Well, I guess not everything's bad. This is a private school, and that much is easily noticed when walking around outside. Not only are the school grounds huge, but the buildings themselves are immaculate and quite divorced from a dime a dozen concrete blocks of public schools. There's also the fact that there's a much stronger feeling of community here, at the very least a friendly atmosphere. At my old school, it was generally accepted that people would keep to their little cliché and be done with it. Eventually I reach a gate and begin to walk down the road and into town. Old Town Road. Well, that was fairly productive. Having seen a fair portion of the town, even including the houses perched on the hills around the outskirts, I decided to take a walk around the park before heading back. Living in a city all my life, the total lack of smartly dressed businessmen and fashionably dressed girls strikes me as incredibly unusual. Come on, man, stop standardizing different kinds of stuff. All that's to be seen are the odd elderly person shuffling along the sidewalk and assorted, busy, chattering pairs of middle-aged women outside of small storefronts. Walking along the road to the park quickly distracts me from them, though, making me realize I perhaps pushed myself further than I should have done to see as much as I could. As my breath begins to wheeze and my chest tightens more and more, I give up on the prospect of soldiering on. But after a quick glance around the park as I enter, I take a seat on a wobbly old bench that I notice near a couple of vending machines. For minutes on end, I sit with my head bent over, forcing myself to take deep breaths. I feel more like an old man than a teenager should be in the prime of his life. The stay in hospital, the surgery, and the medications must be taking their toll on me. Damn it! But the medication is so important. Eventually, my breathing returns to normal and the muscles in my chest loosen, not without a fair measure of relief. I guess this means the end of my little sojourn through, in any case. There's a cafe on the far corner, so I stop by to quench my thirst before heading back. A little bell above the door signals my arrival to an empty counter. For a few moments I stand there waiting, my eyes every now and again drifting from one end of the counter to the other, searching for a service bell. Eventually a door with some ways behind the counter opens, the person emerging from it taking me by complete surprise. Yuko? Hi, I had no idea you worked here. I really have no idea how to address her either, given that she is technically school staff as well as apparently a waitress. She is a waitress here and school staff at the school. Yes, she quickly paced up to the counter before flinging her upward half downwards in an overacted bow. Welcome to the Shanghai, may I take your order? Straight down to business, I see. I don't know, well, some coffee, please? Yes, certainly, I'll make it right away and bring it to you when it's done. Thanks. Yuko's formality takes me aback. She seems to take her job very seriously. A bit of a sore neck at the moment. Obeying her instructions, I turn around and quickly glance around her for a free table. Considering the cafe seems to be empty, but it's a simple task to accomplish. As I walk towards a table adjacent to the window, I notice a flash of yellow around one of the table dividers. Sure enough, no more than when a glance is needed to ascertain that there is a certain Satu at the table. Yes, I don't recognise the pseudo figure across from the table from her. Blonde, fair-skinned and only a little shorter. She, I think she, must be a relative. Sensitive to her all but silent as the pseudo figure takes a swig from a cup of coffee, I decide to greet Lily. Some part of my coming here was in order to meet her after all. Hi Lily. Hi Sal. Yeah, nice to see you again. The suited girl looks up, noting my uniform with a relaxed smile. Know each other? I guess. It's as good an approximation of our relationship as I can think of. Care to take a seat? She says this to the air beside me, but the message is clear enough and I take a seat beside her. Hey, I suppose some introductions might be in order. Hi Sal, this is Akira Satu, my older sister. Akira, this is Hisao Nakai, another Yakumu student. Looks like my guess was correct. When you introduce, Akira gives a nod, which I return. Politeness and all that. What I don't return, however, is the almost analytical gaze with which she looks at me over. Oh! As she does so, Yuko walks up to the table and carefully places the coffee on the table before bowing and taking her leave. Gently bringing my head to the side of the cup, I realise it's already at just the right temperature to drink. I don't know why I did that. Get back! After taking a sip, the favour returns to be just as good as the temperature. Yuka seems a lot better at this than being a librarian. Ouch! I take a good long drink before relaxing into the seat. It takes me a second for Akira's explanation to come to an end. Apparently becoming quickly bored with the activity, she turns to her sister. So, how's school recently? It seems Akira is entirely unconcerned with someone she doesn't know at all listening to everything they say. Not that I mind. Leaving them to their chatting, I sit back and continue drinking the pleasantly aromatic coffee. And sounds like it's pretty busy for you then. At least I'm not cooking your meals after school anymore. Ah, as they talk, I suddenly realise I'm entirely unable to gauge Lily's emotions through her eyes as I would from any other person. It becomes slightly unsettling as I subconsciously focus on that fact. Wow, so cold. Wouldn't you just cook it for yourself anyway? Only ever got leftovers. That's not the point. Are you managing to feed yourself at least? I can cook without blowing myself up, you know. Mostly. That's not reassuring. It's fine, I need to learn sometime anyway. Ah, Lily. Everyone present is momentarily distracted by Yuko, who places a cup of tea on the table for Lily. Thank you. Taking a moment to gaze at her watch, Akira levers herself off her seat and gives me a quick nod. Well, I better be off. It was nice talking to you, Lily. Akira, do you have to? Lily looks genuinely mournful at her sister suddenly leaving. I keep pressing the right mouse click. It does seem like she might have the wrong idea. Sorry, I need to get back to work. They'll be on my neck again if I don't make it back quickly. So informal. Akira's trim and tidy appearance would give anyone the wrong impression of her. Bye, Akira. Come on, don't look so down. I'll be around again soon. See yas. With that, she waltzed out of the Shanghai with her head held high. Her hand held... Hand? Whatever would be the case. Lily still looks pretty depressed. I'll try to make some small talk in an effort to take her mind off it. She seems nice. We used to live together, but now that I live at school, we hardly ever see each other. Despite Lily having been quite fallible, I still don't really know much about her. In hindsight, it's surprising just how much she's extracted from me, really. You used to live together? Was it somewhere around here? It was pretty far south, so the trip into Yamaka was fairly long. With her working hours getting longer and Yamaka being so far away, there was little choice in the end but to move into the dormitories. Well, that explains the chatter about cooking. Evidently regained her composure, she livens back up. At least in part. I'll take it you're better rested now. Sorry? You sound less exhausted than you did when you first came in. To be able to pick up my breathing like that, she must have pretty good ears. Yeah, end up walking all over town despite only planning on taking a short walk down here. Reminding my first from the walk, I lean forward to take a sip. Without further ado, Lilly starts on her cup of strong-smelling tea. I guess I better get going back to Yumako. There's only so long I can stall studying for, and I want to get a good night's sleep before the festival. Standing from my seat, I take the coffee-stained cup from the table. You're leaving? Yeah. You going to head back as well? It's getting kind of late. For a moment she pauses before lifting her face over her teacup as she was looking at me. Yuko, could we have one more coffee, please? Okay, I'll bring it right away. That's not subtle. She gives a short giggle at my frank assessment of her maneuver. It's surprisingly childish and carefree given her otherwise collected appearance. In the end, though, I have little reason to refuse. To be honest, I can hardly say no, all things considered. We can't say no to Lilly! Okay, that came off as being a bit aggressive. Giving her a manufactured sigh, I take a seat opposite to her. Wanting company, then? I'd say that it's more than I was wondering. I see she's in questioning mode again. She does seem to be unusually interested in me, or at least curious. Do you have any siblings? I'm an only child. Not exactly an unexpected tangent. No, only child. To be honest, the idea of having someone that close makes me feel a bit envious. Interesting. I raise an eyebrow, which of course goes unseen. The short silence communicates the question well enough. It's just that others have said the same thing before. It's a difficult subject to try and think about objectively, given that I've always had someone like that. I can mostly understand what Lilly means, given that it would be hard to place oneself outside of a situation they've been in all of their life. She and her sister must have a pretty close relationship. Taking pains to interrupt as little as possible, Yuko dutifully comes over and places a cup on the table. Lilly thanks her and I sit back, taking in this vexing girl in front of me. Despite always seeming to be on her guard and in control of herself when talking to others, she has an almost childlike curiosity about other people. That said, those rare moments she seems to slightly lower her guard are the most insightful into how she thinks. Reaching forward for my drink, I realised something I probably should have noticed earlier. I think I'm starting to become kind of curious about her. Despite making a good pace, it's already nightfall by the time I reach the large iron gates in front of the school. While it's nice to have plenty of time to wander around by virtue of living right next to the school, I can't help but get the feeling that very few students actually take the opportunity. Compared to the number of students I see milling around on campus during free time, it's startlingly rare to see anyone around town, given the large number of accommodations and facilities that the school offers. Many of them might simply not see any point in venturing outside, let alone people such as Hanako and Kenji. Two for very completely different reasons. It makes me wonder if students like Shizney, Misha and Lilly are the exception of the school, rather than the norm. There's also Emi as well, who runs outside every day. As I wander back to my dorm room and continue to compare my old school with Yumako, as I do so, I begin to be surprised that I managed to get even this used to everything that's happened to me. Come on, man. It's all good and fun and games and stuff like that. Oh, this is different. No, it's just a standard transition in and out, for goodness sakes. So yeah, I think that it's definitely confirmed that we're not on the Hanako route anymore, because we didn't see Hanako at the library, but we saw Lilly in town, also getting an early acquaintance with her sister. The next day I wake up feeling a little lightheaded. Akira route anyone? It's almost noon already, suited up and everything. Oh, just kidding. Sleeping late is fine, since it's a Sunday as there are no classes. Not just a Sunday though, but the festival as well. From my window I can already see some people at the soba booth slinging noodles onto... I think we've already been through this. Right, I know what I'll do. Even if it's just one person, I'll make the festival more enjoyable for her. As I place the ball on the counter, I call out to Lilly. Hi, so you brought it back? Yeah, here. I slide into her hands as she takes it over to someone who is apparently on cleaning duty, considering that I didn't see them here before. It's probably a penalty for their tardiness. Hey, Lilly? She perks up and turns to the counter as she hears my voice again, realizing I'm still here. Want to go see some more of the festival? She pumps her cheeks disapprovingly. It is kind of cute and in complete contradiction to her usually reserved nature. Yeah, there's not usually that Harry Potter scar below her eye. Oh dear, it takes a few seconds for me to get what she's what she's taking the issue with. Whoops. I didn't mean to. Lilly goes at me exposing her teasing for what it is. You're still not used to the school, are you? She got me. I kinda need to stay with our stall. It's taken until just now to even get everything unpacked. I guess her reluctance shouldn't overly surprise me considering how much work she's put into this. Everything seems to be running fine now, though. Besides, you got extra help on hand anyway. A boy in the middle of cooking some soba noodles turns towards us grinning. Go on, Liz. You've earned yourself a break. We can hold down the fort for now. If you say it's okay, then I suppose so. But if you need any help, then we'll call you. Go on, we'll be fine. Lilly finally gives up her resistance as he waves a spatula at her. She feels her way around the back of the store and picks up her cane on the way. I guess the first thing we should do is look for Hanako. Lilly seems kind of worried about her, and that she'd be the kind of person to enjoy milling around in crowds like this all alone. So, I guess we should search for Hanako? Where to first? The both of us go quiet for a moment to think. Maybe she's in her dorm room. I doubt it. She don't keep too many things in there, so she'd have nothing to do. Ah, the library? A good a place as any to search for an avid reader, I suppose. The library it is. We'll check there first, man. Aside from the muffled sounds of the crowd seeping in from outside, the inside of the school seems almost deserted. In order to make sure everyone had enough room, I guess all the events were organised to be held outdoors on school grounds. They're definitely quite large by any other school standards. It's nice and quiet in here. Yeah, much nicer than the hustle and bustle outside. We take our time and slowly walk through the first floor of the school, eventually reaching the stairs to the second floor. I can't help but notice how Lilly anticipates every door and obstacle. Her cane remains still and her hands skating along the hallway railings. You really know the school well, don't you? She smiles and nods straight ahead. I've been here for a few years now, so I know where everything is. The dorms still trip me up though, sometimes. I haven't been there as long, and they're not as well laid out as the main building. If I'm remembering right, there used to be unused buildings before being renovated and used as dormitories. That explains why the male and female dorms look different from the outside, and why the rooms seem kind of unusual for sleeping quarters. I'd assumed she'd been living in the dormitories ever since she began attending the school, but now I'm reminded of what she said yesterday. That's right, you mentioned that before. I'd assumed that most of the students here lived in the dormitories once being enrolled. A lot of them seem to, in any case. Lilly's expression becomes somewhat hard to read, my question evidently touching on a delicate point. Well, how should I say? Everyone has their reasons. Something tells me that one of those with reasons is Hanako, hence her tiptoeing around the answer. My predicament is yet another such case. I guess the choice everyone here would have to make for themselves, or, in my instance, have made for them. It can't be helped, I suppose. At least Yamako itself seems like a nice place. It's good to hear you say that. I thought you were coming to dislike it. What about you, though? My reversal of Lilly's statement takes her by surprise. I've been here for a while, so... It's not that. You just seem pretty depressed about Akira. What's with that look? Akira's taken. Wait! No, not like that! Come on now! Lilly never sees how fast my palm meets my face. A sly accusation. Hey, I was worried about you. You know which to respond to concern. While she gives him his grin, we round the corners of the hallway and enter the library. And as we do so, we spot a Hanako in here, considering that the room is completely devoid of anyone else. Given there are no staff around, I guess there's no need to heed the usual library rules. I call out to her. Hey, Hanako. Hanako is here. As she hears our voices, Hanako's head flakes up from behind a book, probably the same one she'd been reading on Friday. Hi, Sal. Lilly? Just thought we'd drop by. Lilly just managed to escape from the noodle store with a little help. That wasn't really an escape. Hanako gives a small giggle, briefly surprising both of us. I just thought that Lilly might not be enjoying the festival. Well, now we can enjoy it together, right? The two nod happily before we set out of the library toward the festivities. And I hand over some change to the girl behind the counter and 2 styrofoam cups of tea. I try to accentuate my bow a bit to cover for the fact that she's quite obviously deaf. Coming to think of it, I probably should have asked for help instead of leaving those two in the gardens while I bought drink. Trying to juggle with 2 cups of hot tea for them and a can of coffee for myself out of a vending machine isn't exactly easy. With some careful manoeuvring though, I managed to keep everything stable and upright as I walk over to the bench where Lilly and Hanako are sitting and chatting. It's actually quite a nice place, lit only by moonlight. It's tucked away some distance from the main events. Compared to how hot it had been during the day, the spot is also pleasantly cool by now. Excellent. Not that it matters at all that much. Most of the visitors have moved to areas that are either close to the fireworks or higher on the hill in order to view the display apparently planned. Welcome back, Hisao. Thanks, ears are good. I'm not exactly close, and even Hanako hasn't noticed me. Here you go. Sorry it's instant, but that's all they had left by now. Hanako gingerly takes a cup from my right hand, and I gently place the other into Lilly's outstretched hand. Did you enjoy the festival then, Hisao? Yeah, it was pretty fun. An honest answer. Much of the food may have been somewhat subpar, but it was a lot of fun in the end, especially with Hanako and Lilly. In fact, I think those two may have enjoyed themselves even more than I did, with both Lilly and me around. Much of Hanako's withdrawn nature around others died down enough for her to enjoy herself. And there goes the fireworks. As we sit drinking, the whistle of the first firework rings out before it explodes into a vibrant shower of blue against the night sky, heralding the beginning of the end of the festival. Enthusiastic shouts can be heard from the crowd scattered around the school grounds celebrating them. For minutes on end, Hanako and I watch the fireworks overheard as Lilly blissfully listens to them with her eyes shut. Red, green, yellow, star-shaped, circular and patterned, and all manners of shapes and colours fill the air, one after the other, and dance across the sky. No place near where I live to put on such lavish displays. Festivals like this were a thing of the past in such a metropolitan area. To be seen a sight with these two, it's probably the happiest I've been in a long time. So, that's it. The festival's finally ending. Yeah. She gives a delicate wistful sigh. As much as I might complain about all the stuff we have to do, it's still sad that we'll have to graduate before the next year American festival. I'll walk forward to stand beside Lilly, gently resting a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, we'll still have Tanabana later in the year, right? You're right. It would be nice to go there when it comes. Minutes of silence pass with only the blast of the fireworks to be heard. Seeing these two reminds me of those words of advice that he had given me as we walked into town together. Cherish the opportunity to make new friends, huh? Hey Lilly? She turns her head slightly to show that she's listening. Hanako's gaze still firmly fixed on the Technicolor fireworks blasting overhead. You mind if I join you two for tea every now and again? The smile on her face is more than enough to see her answer. It would be a pleasure, Hisao. A pleasure indeed. Hey! Feeling up for cup. Airplane. Ah, her trip back to Scotland. Or coming from somewhere. I'm not too sure. Oh. Everything okay there, Lilly? Huh? What the hell's going on here? Aww. Water? No, it's just a reflection from the teacup. Well, time to begin my final chapter on the game. Final route. Act 2 pass. Damn it, this game's been so good. It still is very good. Super good. Top 5 favourite visual novels of all time. I'll wait to the annoying din of my alarm clock its bright red numerals lighting up my face. It's the same alarm clock that I had at home, one of the few remaining artifacts of my days before coming to Yumako. I'd hoped that using it would help ease my transition into this new life. No such luck, though. Groggily dragging myself out of bed, I wipe the sleep out of my eyes, then reach over to my desk, open a couple of the bottles of medication strewn across it, and swallow a few pills dry. By now, the process is starting to become automatic, something that I should be glad for, given their purpose. Exactly. Their importance as well. Feeling much more awake than before, I wander into the bathroom. While the shower warms up, my mind begins to wander as my new daily routine begins once again. The bright colours of the fireworks fill my mind, as do the two girls with whom I spent my time watching them with. It feels strange to be moved so much by people I know so little about. Then again, I suppose these aren't normal circumstances. At least I have someone to talk to now, aside from my schoolmate next door. With the time left before school begins today waning, I begin to get ready for class. And class came about. Thank you for not interacting with Kenji. Walking through the door into the classroom, I notice that I'm still somewhat early. I see about 5 or 6 students milling around, most of them looking as if they'd rather be still in bed. It's at times like this that I appreciate being a morning person. That said, 2 students in particular seem just as perky as always. Mr. and Shizney! Hi, Shizney. Hi, Misha. I suddenly realised that my greeting would be lost on the former, so I quickly follow up with a wave. She doesn't seem overly bothered, or interested for that matter. Hello, hi Chan, are you feeling well? I can only assume her greeting comes from Shizney. It's hard to tell if she's speaking as herself or Shizney sometimes. Better than most everyone else. I guess you team seem bright and chipper. Misha signs this back to Shizney as I say it, electing a somewhat terse answer, if her sharp and rapid arm movements are any indication. Considering that these two made such a big deal of festival preparation, I probably should have chosen my words more carefully. Shizney is still very unhappy about us not helping her out for the festival preparations. Since you're a new student, we've been cutting you some slack. Please don't expect this kind of task dodging to be allowed in the future. Excuse me, we aren't task dodging if we don't accept the task in the first place. It wasn't our task to help you out, dear student council leader. Misha looks as if she's about to add her own comment, but quickly goes back to interpreting as Shizney continues unabated. While your contribution to the Class 32 stall is appreciated... Words chuckle around quickly. That or these two have their fingers on the pulse of the school. We would prefer your efforts to be focused on the task at hand, namely your own class. As much as I hate to admit it, they do have a point. Before I can respond though, Shizney adds something more, which draws a smile from Misha. Did you enjoy the festival then? Lecture over, I guess. Yeah, it was good. Did you two enjoy it? Shizney gives a short nod as Misha grins and bounces her head up and down. The contrast side by side is amusing. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice more students starting to trickle into the classroom. A quick gaze at my watch confirms that they're a few minutes late. And I look over to Hanaka and realise she's already there and contently reading a book. Makes me... I keep doing that. Get off. It makes me wonder just how long she's been there without me noticing. With heavy steps coming up the hallway, signaling Muto's arrival, our idle talking comes to an end and I take my seat next to Misha. As the door slides open, he strides through the ponderous gate. His posture is even worse than usual and his eyes are barely staying open. I guess my quip to Lilly and Hanako about the staff is misplaced. Everyone opens their books and as he reaches his desk, and the first class of the new week begins. Thank you all about that. I rub my eyes as the lunch bell rings. Lunchtime! Glad for a temporary reprieve from work. I'm entirely unsurprised when I look over to the door and see Lilly standing there, cane in hand, patiently waiting for Hanako. Considering her acceptance of my request to join me yesterday, I decided to spend my lunch time with them rather than eat alone. Hanako moves surprisingly fast to meet her companion and the two enter the hallway before I can catch up. Lilly's head turns slightly, registering the sound of footsteps behind her. As Hanako notices and follows her lead, she almost jumps in surprise. Hi, Sal? Hello, Hisao. Sorry if I startled you. Lilly turns to greet me, helped in her orientation by Hanako. Good afternoon, Hisao. Are you joining us? If it's no trouble, there's not much else to do, really. Lilly gives a small nod, as does a sunny brush away any idea there would be trouble in the least. And we descend one set of stairs and walk down the hallway to the usual room, our pace somewhat quicker than usual thanks to Lilly using Hanako for direction, rather than her cane and the railings. As expected, it's deserted. The sounds of the other clubs can only barely be heard as sunlight streams into the room from outside. Looking around the room, I notice a couple of empty easels propped up against a wall that I don't think were there before. The art club must use this room as extra storage. Should I get the chess set out? Hanako's voice seems less tense when she's directly addressing Lilly. Yes, I'll make tea while you sort the pieces. Ah, I could do that for you if you'd like. She ponders the offer for a moment before smiling, confirming that I've made the right choice. Her face is remarkably easy to read. Very well, thank you. And a quick bow. She slides her retractor cane in the hand of her back and sets it against... Oh, that's what it was. Not a bow. My bad. And sets it against one of the table legs before taking a seat opposite Hanako. As I prepare tea for the three of us, I can hear the small wooden pieces being set on the board. I wonder how good Lilly is at chess, given her circumstances. Do not underestimate an opponent, even if they are blind, deaf, mute, any kind of condition. By the time I place the steaming teacups onto the table, Lilly and Hanako have already moved their first pieces as they nibble on sandwiches and rice balls from their respective bags. I note that the chessboard they're using has holes in the middle of each square, which makes it very, very handy for people with certain kinds of conditions. It allows them to see where the center of the board is. And it has each dark square slightly raised. Watching Lilly's fingers skating over the board, tracing out the positions of the pieces, makes me marvel a little at the simple ingenuity of the design. It must be specifically made for blind players. Here you go. Hanako gives a small nod as I put down the cup next to her of the board. Lilly's hand ventures sideways slightly, so I gently place the cup touching the tips of her fingers, a gesture she seems to appreciate. I finally take a seat and silently sip my tea as the two play. The contrast in their appearances while playing is interesting to watch. Hanako looks closely at the board, her face one of focused concentration. Lilly, on the other hand, keeps her head level and maintains her calm neutrality. Lilly's gentle voice addresses both of us as she continues to play. How was class, now that the festival is over? I look to Hanako to see whether she'll answer first, but she's doing the same. Not great. Half the class seemed to be dozing off, even including the teacher, not to mention a test on top of all that. Hanako quietly adds her own agreement with this. I could imagine that being a bit difficult for you, being a transfer student. Well, I think I did fine. Other than the shock of the test coming so early, science is probably my best subject. How'd you do, Hanako? Me? Okay, I guess. Hanako's too sincere to be able to pull off a line very well. That much is obvious. Lilly's smile sips very slightly. From her reaction, Hanako must have been skilled enough at academics to do very well without preparation. How did your class handle it, Lilly? It went surprisingly well, actually. Only one student was absent, which was better than what the teacher expected. With the topic all but run dry, the two concentrate on the chess game once again. I can't say I've ever liked the idea of a chess as a spectator sport, but given its unique nature, for once I am wrapped in watching the game unfold. And As time wears on, both of them demonstrate decent skill at playing the game. Having captured 2 more pawns than Hanako, Lilly has the upper hand, but only slightly. Until Hanako makes a strange move with her queen. Seizing upon this lapse in judgment, Lilly takes the piece with her knight. Without hesitation, Hanako moves a pawn to take Lilly's rook on the opposite side of the board and promotes it to a queen. Gosh. Lilly's face folds as her fingers move over the pieces and she realizes that she just fell into Hanako's trap. It's a little distracting to have the board trace out after each move, even if it's out of necessity. Judging by Hanako's lack of reaction, she must be used to this. She and Lilly must have played at least a few games of chess against each other after all. Check. That's not bad at all. Nice, Hanako. The compliment causes her to flower into a surprise blush. But thank you. I didn't think it would work. I look over to Lilly, her fingers having just finished tracing out the position of her remaining pieces in an attempt to extract that word, her king, from this bind. I think this is checkmate. I take another look at the board to confirm. Sure enough, her king has nowhere to escape without being threatened by another piece. My earlier question as to whom of them is better at this has just been answered. It's only one game though. Oop, didn't mean to click off the game there. So it is. Lilly gives a small sigh as Hanako smiles. From their reactions, it seems like a fairly usual result. How long have you two been playing? Since I was young? Lilly nods at Hanako's brief answer. Hanako taught me how to play soon after I met her. I could beat her every now and then, but that's a rarity. I don't seem to have the right mindset for it. If Lilly came to Yamako at the start of high school and met Hanako when she moved to the dorms, that means she's only been playing for about 1 year. After seeing Hanako's level of play, I'm not too surprised Lilly has trouble beating her. But she's better at languages than I am, so we all have different skill sets. Lilly gives an appreciative, if slightly amused smile at Hanako's quick reversal of her compliment. Well, that's how it is. Much to everyone's surprise, the bell suddenly rings, heralding an end to the lunch break. The game lasted longer than I thought it did. Same. I guess we'd better get back to class. Hanako's already in the middle of packing up, so I take Lilly's bag and offer it to her. To my surprise, she takes it and nods, but then places it back down on the table. Hi, Sal. May I have a request? Sure, go ahead. Would you mind if I were to quickly What? This is a rather unusual request. No, go ahead, I don't mind. The question takes me severely off guard, but once I regain my composure, it seems sensible enough. So far, Lilly has no idea what I actually look like, and this would be her only way to find out. What the hell is this? She has an odd smile on her as well. Lilly raises her right hand, which I take in mine and guide to my face before letting go. The room is entirely silent as Lilly's hand moves over and around my features, from my chin to my cheeks to everywhere else. I expected this to feel a lot more disquieting than it does. I suppose that's because the action is entirely a matter of practicality, being functionally no different to simply look at someone's face. Her hand is soft. What takes by surprise is the length of her fingers, not to mention how sure even the slightest of her movements are. I have no doubt that her level of tactile feeling would be far beyond mine. Her hand briefly runs once through my hair, before retreating. I'm sure that every inch of my face has been committed to her memory. It's only now too that I realise Hanako's been silently watching me the entire time. Thank you for letting me do that, Hisao. And if I might add, I think you're quite... Aww! Aww! I blushed a little at her remark before raising a questioning eyebrow. Come on, Hisao! Just because I can't see, that doesn't mean I don't have my own preferences. We better go now. Yeah, that's a good point. I guess we'll see you later then, Lilly. The way she pouted about, just because I can't see doesn't mean I don't have my own preferences. Walking through the hallways back to our classroom, I noticed that Hanako seems quieter than before, but also more comfortable. Lilly, her hand on Hanako's shoulder, seems to pick up on her assured pace as well, smiles as they walk. If I could spend the rest of my time at Yamako like this, I don't think it'd be so bad. All that's needed for joy are small exchanges of happiness, after all. As I reach my desk and set my bag beside it, I realize something, or rather, my stomach does. Oh gosh, how could you do that to yourself, man? I was so busy with those two I forgot to buy lunch. How selfless and selfish of you simultaneously. Saturday, my second most favourite day of the week. This is almost entirely due to the fact that it is the day with the second least amount of school, with class ending at the beginning of lunch. I open my door confidently, myself being more than confident of being able to get enjoyment out of the fine weather and shorter class length. I confidently stride down the hallway and down the stairs to the lobby of the male dorms. I confidently look behind me to see whose footsteps are approaching. I lose my confidence in this day being enjoyable. Thank you for consuming a lot of my time, Kenji. Piling my books into my bag, I catch a glimpse of the library books I borrowed last week. I might as well return them considering they took all the 2 days to finish. I briefly considered inviting Hanako along to the library, but she's already gone. It'd probably be better for my studying if I'm alone anyway. With a quick stretch and a wave to a couple of classmates who give the same to me, I make my way out of the classroom and into the library. As I open my bags and shove the books through the return slot in front counter, I notice a strange person behind the desk, old and graying. She must be Yuko's replacement when she's working at a cafe. I began to look for a free table, a task made somewhat difficult considering that despite there not being many students here, they were sitting at their own tables. Noticing a familiar head of hair, I'll walk over to one near the braille section. Lilly? It's hard to tell whether Lily's concentrating hard or not, her placid expression holding perfectly still as her fingers slide across the dot-filled pages of her book. Hi, mind if I sit here? Oh, no problem at all. She trails off, evidently still focused on her business at hand. Ah, hi, Sal. She gives a nod of greeting as I sit opposite at her table. Pluck a chemistry textbook out of my bag and quickly thumb to the chapters we're covering in class. For a while we sit there and read, each in their own way. Seeing her reminds me of what Kenji said this morning, though. And the fact I've never seen someone read in Braille before makes me keep throwing glass at her. I kind of feel guilty about it, given that she has no way to realise I'm doing so. So I decided to just ask her about her. Her lineage isn't exactly a state secret after all, and there's another thing I've only just noticed from her movements. Hey Lily, mind if I ask a question? Not at all, is anything wrong? I was just wondering. You're at least part foreign, right? She gives a small giggle before setting down her book. I've always been amused at how squeamish people are about that. Akira's mentioned how much she and I look different from most others before. The details are a bit complicated, but I'm half Japanese, half Scottish. Scottish! That's not exactly my first guess. It takes some effort to not blurt it out loud. I try to conjure images of the place in my mind. I think as far as the UK goes, Scotland isn't bad to live in, but I'm not really sure. Let's see, there's far less population in Scotland, there are more mountainous areas in Scotland than there are in England. Both points about England and Scotland, by the way. It's not as expensive to live in Scotland. It has a lot of lakes, beautiful lakes, mind you. I visited there once. It has one of the best lakes I've ever seen in my life. And, well, one of the only lakes I've seen in my life. And it's cooler as well, which is an added bonus, but I live in the southeast of England, which is like one of the furthest you could be away from Scotland in comparison to England. Well, aside from Cornwall, which is in the southwest. My first guess of England was surprisingly close, at least geographically. That does leave another question, though. But you have no accent? That's where the details begin. I was born and raised in Japan, despite my mother being foreign. Oh, I get it. Hold on. If she moved to the dorms simply due to Akira working longer hours, so they don't live near the school, She gives a small sigh, as if she didn't expect me to go any deeper. Was her previous frankness just a front? Not exactly. It's been a long time since we've actually met. I feel like I'm not getting the whole story, but I don't really want to go unduly prying into her situation. Her about face shows she feels kind of awkward about it. So, do you speak much English? To be honest, I don't know that much about Scotland, but at least I know that's the main language there. It takes her a moment to collect herself, appreciating the change of topic. That's right. My family mostly used Japanese around the house when I was young, but they made sure Kira and I knew our Scottish side just as well. I'm fluent in the language, but I'm also studying it in school to keep up my skill levels and to have the qualification of my paper, mainly. So you're bilingual. That's pretty impressive. I wouldn't go that far. Having parents who can speak the language is a large advantage, and English books in Braille aren't too hard to buy or import, with Yuko's help at least. There's a relatively high demand for local English teachers here anyway, which also helps give me some motivation to learn it well. Demand for English teachers? For a moment, I wonder why she brought this up. You're planning to be an English teacher? She gives an enthusiastic nod. It must be nice, having such a definite future in mind. I never really given much thought of mine, so I'm kind of envious. What's wrong? It's just, I could see you as a teacher pretty easily. It suits you. For a moment she's speechless. She lowers her face a little and lets out a nervous giggle, something I've never seen her do before. With Lily's role as a class representative and her dependable nature, teaching does seem to be a line of work fitting her personality. Sorry, that was probably a little much. Is it true, though? Waving her hand in front of her face dismissively, she quickly recovers. It's not that. It's just that only one person's ever said that to me before. So now it's two. A short, somewhat awkward silence follows the discussion. Without knowing it, I end up steering into a troublesome topic again. I should try to cheer up a little. It was me who went and got her brooding, after all. Want to go grab lunch at a cafeteria after this? It might perk her up a little, or at least take her mind off her apparently complicated family situation. Going by her smart seems to have the intended effect. I appreciate the thought, but the food there... Quite a quick redirection of the conversation. She does have a point, though. The food there isn't the greatest. Maybe with Shanghai, we could ask Hanako if she wants to come as well. What is it? I almost forgot. Until you remind me, Hanako's birthday is coming up soon, and I was going to go shopping in the city for a present tomorrow. If that's an invitation, I'd be happy to accompany you. The ability to get more used to the layout of the city would probably be a good thing. I've barely set foot in there, so I'd be hopelessly lost by myself. She gives a nod, signaling that she happily approves of this plan for Sunday. We eventually get back to our books, though before I begin reading again, I steal one last glance at her. Maybe I've been thinking of my situation too much. After all, everybody here would have their own unique circumstances. The chance to get outside and clear my head would probably do me good. All of standing in place and watching the television in the shop window, I pull myself away from the tacky display with little effort. After living at Yamako, the city seems like an entirely different world. No running the halls, calm and orderly conduct is to be used at all times in the classrooms. Students are to exit rooms after checking both directions for oncomers. Elevators are reserved for movement-impaired students. Single file on stairs. Compared to such strict, almost regimental standards, the city's shopping arcade might as well be a strange country. While the school may have its fair share of hustle and bustle during the festival, the outside world is much different. Goodness sakes, these car noises are so loud, it's strange. Having lived in a metropolitan city before my accident, it should feel more natural than Yamako and the surrounding town ever could. Yet it feels foreign. Somehow, the elevated walkways of tall buildings, each adorned with billboards taller than any three people, don't do anything to distract me from the passing crowd's reactions. Lilly keeps one hand on my shoulder, the other hand holding her cane, which taps the ground with a metronome-like steadiness. Looking over to her, the natural smile of her still holds. Having only seen her in school uniform, I'd not have recognized her. She sat on a bench waiting for me to come, if not for her cane propped up against it and her distinctive hair. I can't tell whether they're glancing at her due to her height, her foreign looks, her obvious blindness, or all three. Not that any of those would make the situation any less uncomfortable than it is. Do you have any ideas of where to look first, Hisao? Her soft voice breaks me out of my line of thought. Look, I can't imagine that she's failing to notice the attention she garners, but she seems unfazed by it. I get a feeling she's the type to enjoy walking outside, so she might be used to it by now. Not really. This is my first time in this city, so I've got no idea of where to go. She furrows her brow in thought, planning a route for us to take, and comes to think of it, a way to communicate it. Something I'd noticed in the time I've been with her is how, when deep in thought, she lacks clothes to any form of body language to show it. Her expression may change, but not a hint of movement shows. She seems to have little in the way of sweeping physical gestures in general though, so I assume it's part of her reserved nature. Is there a large electronics store near here? I take a quick look around, mostly find clothes stores. After a few seconds I notice a store with a bright blue sign some distance that fits her description. Yeah, but it's just a bit ahead of us. Shall we go in that direction? Thankfully, it's just the information she needed. With a nod, we start off and head towards Lilly's unknown destination, landmarks being our guide. Aha, here you go. 1 vanilla, 1 chocolate. I hand the money over the counter and take the cones to the railing that Lilly's sitting on. I can't believe I let her trick me like this. She not only led me to an ice cream store, but also got me to buy her some. At least she gave me the money for hers. Yeah, Lilly is quite a cunning individual, but not like Shizney cunning. Sure enough, she's patiently waiting where I'd left her. I guess she was planning on making the day an event, rather than a simple shopping trip. I call her to her and slowly place the vanilla cone in her outstretched hands, being careful to make sure she has a good hold of it before letting go. At least her tastes are fairly normal. I was worried she would ask for some weird flavour when she asked first, but her choice of flavours is very vanilla. Okay, pun over with. Here's the change. It's okay, keep it. I moved to protest, but realised the futility of doing so over such a small amount. I slipped the coin into my pocket, supplementing my meagre allowance ever so slightly. Lilly shows no sign of wanting to get up, so I take a seat beside her and sit eating my own ice cream. The summer's weather's nice. Hopefully it will hold out for a while. You too? I'm beginning to think I'm the only person who prefers winter. Hey! I prefer winter as well! I contemplate her statement for a long moment. Yeah, I think you might be. I think it's her Scottish side. It draws the intended reaction. She's cute when she's pouting. And she's got that Harry Potter scar on her as well. Oh dear Annika, I just can't get off of that kind of reaction. I mean, Lilly, my bad. Still, I can't really imagine what's so good about winter. You can't go out without bundling up and you still freeze anyways. I used to live further north, where there'd been plenty of snow to play in, so it's a little nostalgic. I don't like the heat very much either. At least you can wear a skirt, so don't complain about that. She gives an amused giggle as we both get back to finishing our already melting cones. Yeah. I idly sit and watch the crowds going by as we eat, catching bits and pieces of conversation. Looking to Lilly, I see her dutifully licking her ice cream from the top downwards, blissfully unaware of the fact that it's beginning to melt. It's melting. Where? Down a bit. She lowers her mouth from the top of the cone, but has no idea exactly where the ice cream's dripping. What follows is a game of guiding her left and right until she finally finds it. Taking long look, it must seem absolutely bizarre. A girl with her eyes closed, turning her cone over and over as the guy next to her gives instructions. A strange variant of childhood blindfold games, maybe. In good time, we finally finish our treats, and while away the time conversing casually. Caught mid-sentence, Lilly perks her head in her trademark manner, is an unmistakable sign that something's caught her attention. Ah, what is it? Is Akira somewhere over there? I think I heard her. I raise an eyebrow as I look in the direction she's facing, somewhat doubtful of her ability to pick up Akira's lone voice in the din. Sure enough, though, a blonde girl in a suit can be seen through the tiny gaps between people walking every which way. I raise a hand and wave, trying to catch her attention. Satu! Hey, Satu! She stops her tracks and looks towards me, evidently noticing my calls as she does. I notice someone walking beside her. I can't get a good look at whoever it is, though, before the two begin walking towards where we are. Hello! As they reach us, Lilly and I stand and dust ourselves off. Akira? Hey, you two! And... aha! She nods towards me, a gesture which I quickly return. My gaze shifts towards... They're not, girl! As her eyes meet as they do, Akira plops a hand onto her head, a move which doesn't seem to faze her. I don't believe we've met. I'm Hideki. Pleased to meet you, Hisao. A guy's name, huh? Guess I just dodged a bullet there. He bows, somewhat restrained by Akira's hand being on his head. Oh, Hideki's here too. Are you well? Akira's been taking very good care of me, thank you. Akira grins as if to affirm the point and rubs his head hard, dragging it around in a circular motion. His dreary face doing this is somewhat amusing. Uncle's out on business again, so I'm just taking him around town for today. Hopefully we'll never meet the godforsaken uncle. I'd prefer to be spending the day on a date with my boyfriend, but... Hideaki coughs, so gives a cough to try and redirect Akira's thoughts. As he does so, though, I find mine wandering. They're related, and further, as first cousins? I suppose that explains why she's taking care of him in any case. Accountability, Hideaki. How'd you know my name? Akira told me. Being a Yamaka student, I suppose you're disabled in some way? Not everyone in Yamaka is disabled, which I only learned a handful of days ago. I give silent thanks to Shizni and Misha for their stream of information about how the school works. Because of them, I found out that since the school will accept practically anybody suffering from non-mental disabilities, it doesn't discriminate against healthy people either. It seems unlikely that many in good health will enroll there though. While the standard of education is pretty high, it's extremely isolated and very much focused on helping disabled students. You're dodging the question. Damn, he's sharp. Before I say another word though, he decides to take a stab at it himself. If I were to call it myself, your heart? Akira looks mildly curiously at me. Her interest piqued as well. That sure was a lucky guess. How did you... You show no missing limbs or deformities, so external disabilities are out. Considering the lack of any strange mannerisms, it's also unlikely that you'd have any mental disability. But Yamaka doesn't take mentally disabled students. I know. Leaving that aside, the only possible left is that of internal disabilities. I didn't know which one you might bear, so I guessed. Correctly as it turns out, and your action confirmed my guess. More of a little bemused, I look to Akira. She grins and shrugs, obviously taking some enjoyment out of her partner's deductions. He's sharp, yes, but more of a little unsympathetic, logical but lacking in tact. His attitude reminds me of Shizni in a way, and so does his looks. May I ask why he's staring at me? Surely I'm not that unusual a specimen. Does he not know how unusual he looks? I could overlook the spats and clothes as just being coincidental, but the ribbon in his hair really is too much. This is entirely beside the point though. Sorry, you just remind me of someone. Akira gives a sharp jab with her elbow. Told you're not much different from her. He calls into his hand to try and maintain an upright and serious demeanour. I see you've met my sister then. Perhaps my full name might help you. I am Hideaki Hakamichi. You'll probably think of my sister, Shizni Hakamichi. Ah, so he's Shizune's brother. Wait a minute. If Hideaki is the son of Akira's uncle and Shizune is his sister, then that means Lilly's and Shizune's fathers are brother-in-law. Therefore, Lilly and Shizune are first cousins? Lilly groans in an uncharacteristically unrestrained manner. The reaction earns an amused smirk from her sister. The enmity between the two just took on another meaning. I'd thought it's simply a matter of difficulty of communication between the two, but a family feud makes things much more complicated. You can choose your friends, but you cannot choose your family. You can choose who in your family to associate with, though. She gives a half-hearted shrug. She mustn't give as much weight to the two's conflict as I do. Well, that's how it is. What are you two up to anyway on this fine day? We're shopping for Hanaka's birthday present. Hanaka's birthday present. The day will be coming up soon, so this is the last chance we'll have before school starts again for the week. Akira makes a strange face, as if Lilly had just said that the sky wasn't blue and the clouds not white. Isn't her birthday on the 10th next month? Yes, why? Is something wrong? Akira's face seems to collapse. It's an utterly unbefitting expression for someone so rowdy and headstrong. The folks don't call you yet? As Lee shakes her head cluelessly, I look at Hideaki to see if he knows anything about this. A simple shrug is his only answer. For a moment, Akira ponders what to do before smiling once again. The fact that she can't hide her emotions so quickly and effectively is unsettling. Hey, Shorty. Sorry, but could you hang with Hisao for a while? He nods and waves her off. Akira places an arm on Lily's shoulder as she guides her away and out of earshot. And so, I'm alone with Shorty. Hideaki. So, nice weather, isn't it? It seems so. I guess they dumped us. Indeed. What a farcical attempt at small talk. I've got no idea how to talk to this guy, and his robotic response is not helping. Blood and a stone come to mind. Without another word, he begins to rock on his feet in an obvious gesture of boredom with his discussion. He really is like a little kid, despite his serious demeanour. Suspecting the conversation over, I decided to accomplish what I came here to do in the first place. I'm going to go search for a present. Coming? Not much else to do. Right, in a little while we come to a small shop beside a convenience store. For once, the store windows aren't filled with electronics and computer games, but dolls, stuffed bears, and all manners of wood-crafted oddities. Ophelia's Antiques? An antique store? Well, if there's anything in this town that'd suit Hanaka, I guess it'd be here. I reach for an old-looking door handle, pull back at the last minute as I realise my companion's gone adrift. Not coming in? I'll just be in the newsstand for a while, don't mind me. His voice makes it painful to get he has zero interest in what's in the store, and that he doesn't feel obligated to follow me. As he wanders off without another word, I push the thick wooden door and enter the store, a bell above me ringing out. Yeah, last time I was with Lilly in here, the musty smell of old books and wooden shelves is distinctly anachronistic. I look to the counter beside the door. The grey man behind it sits there silently, reading a tattered book. He certainly fits the look of the place. Slowly wandering through the aisles, a person I'm reminded of as I inspect each handcrafted or imported oddity in turn isn't Hanako. Crouching down, I examine the ancient oak desk inside the shop window. At least 30 dolls, all varying wildly in size and make. The only similarity between them is the long Victorian dresses they wear. I turn the price tag of one that looks to be about waist height. It's not in my price bracket after all. I do the same to each of them, getting more and more depressed as they get smaller and smaller in size. That is, until I reach the very smallest one. It's affordable, just yet of quality make and with a burnt hair and a little blue dress. I decide that it's the kind of present Hanako would appreciate, pretty looking, and far from gaudy. After I carefully pick it up, I decide to keep looking around the store. I'm not sure whether it's because I like the atmosphere or out of simple curiosity. Peeking around the corner before I go to the next aisle, I see that the shelves in this one are stocked with wooden toys, from toy cars to intricate automations. Tucked behind a line of nutcrackers, I noticed a little plain wooden box. It feels surprisingly light as I pick it up with my free hand. The lid only needs the smallest movement to pop open. The little metal drum inside began to rotate immediately. It's a music box. For seconds on end, I simply stand there listening to the palm-sized melody. As it plays, I take the tiny price tag in my fingers and bring it up to my face. The musical cursive writing taking some effect to read. It's affordable, sort of. Grimacing slightly, I close the lid and make my way to the counter with doll and music box in hand. While I lay the two on the counter, the man behind it sits up and takes stock of them. He doesn't hide very well his surprise at someone of my age buying them. It's painful, but I hand over the money for the two and leave the store with a small, opaque bag in hand. Hideaki being there takes me by surprise. Oh, hi. I thought you'd be at the newsstand. Akira gave me a call. She's waiting for us at the fountain with Lilly. At least that solves the issue of trying to find them again. Indeed. We head off back to the fountain. Hideaki's immaculate posture and presentation, despite his appearance, makes for a strange contrast even as we walk. Lilly and Akira stand there waiting for us. Their faces hard to read. Hey, you ready to go, Shorty? Hideaki's mood seems to improve as he rejoins her. See you, Lilly. Hisao. Tell Hanako I said happy birthday. We will. Bye. Goodbye, Akira. And with that, the two disappear into the fractures of the afternoon city crowd. Turning to Lilly, I notice she's carrying a small bag. It's now that I realise why her disposition felt different from before. While Lilly's typically the type to wear her emotions on her sleeve, her expression and tone are clouded and difficult to read. It's more of a little off-putting, but given the effort she's making to hide her emotions, I doubt she wants to be cornered on why she's feeling this way. Already bought Hanako a present? Yes, have you? Yeah. Shall we head back to the bus stop then? Okay, there should be a bus back to Yamako pretty soon, and with that we begin to walk. It feels strange compared to before. Lilly's hand on my forearm feels unusually tense, and the whole atmosphere is extraordinarily awkward. The silence continues for a long while. I really don't like seeing her like this. Hanako's birthday party is going to have to be held earlier. Is the 4th going to be alright for you? I have no obligations possible. I have no other possible obligations anyway, so I reflexively nod. Only afterwards do I remember that doing so is pointless, and quickly answers so by speech. She tries to collect herself, a task that looks almost pitiable in how plain it is to see how distant her thoughts are. Sorry, Hisao. You said the bus would be coming soon, right? That's right. But now that she says it, I have an idea. Actually, do you have anything to do later today? I don't believe so. Why do you ask? This is the point where I'd normally take your hand and rush you somewhere, but even without that, you'll have to trust me, okay? I take her hand and gently lead her on, her distant face replaced by one of mild surprise and curiosity. As the waitress sits with a cup of tea and cup of coffee that I ordered onto the table, I thank her before she takes her leave. Truth be told, I really lucked out in finding this cafe. I don't really know where I was going. Rather, I was just looking for any cafe that looked relatively nice. Having managed to recover a little, Lilly tentatively sips at her cup as I take a long gulp of the coffee in front of me. As I hoped, her face lights up as she realizes what flavor it is. Ah, this is wonderful. Hi, Sal. How did you know that this was... I asked for French vanilla black tea, hedging my bets that it would be her favorite flavor, or at least one she liked. While I don't really know much about tea, it sounded like one she might appreciate. On the base of her liking vanilla ice cream, a tea connoisseur I'm definitely not. It was a lucky guess. You really like tea, don't you? She puts her teacup down and gives a tiny nod. That familiar small smile faintly perched onto her face once again. Drinking tea is calming, I think. With the amount you drink, are you sure you're not addicted to it? Caffeine addiction is pretty common nowadays. Did I ever say I wasn't? She lets out a giggle as my head drops. We all have our vices, I suppose, and there are worse things to be addicted to. Yeah, like cocaine or cannabis or gambling. French vanilla black tea, huh? I'll have to remember that. For a while, we both silently drink. It's comforting to have someone like her nearby in such new surroundings. Even if it's just the two of us sitting in silence. I begin to wonder if this feeling is the same for her until she sets down her cup. Hi Sal, do you mind if I ask you a slightly odd question? That depends on the question, I guess. I was wondering what your favourite colour is. Everyone has one after all. I almost replied before realising why the seemingly mundane question is actually pretty strange. My favourite colour? But... She gives a pouting look. Aww. Why do you mean to answer anyway? Well, the answer seems unavoidably wasted on her. There isn't any harm in giving it. I've always had a theme for green. I'd say that's my favourite colour. Green, is it? What things do you have... Sorry, what things do you think of when contemplating that colour? I suppose grass fields and trees in summer. The army as well with camouflage. Men always seem to like the military. But that sounds like a nice colour, a very nice colour. She nods her head a little, as if approving of the choice, considering how foreign the concept of colour is to her mind. Labeling it by association seems reasonable enough. If everyone has a favourite colour, then what's yours? White. I'm told that's the colour of snow, and of ice cream. Vanilla ice cream is not white, but it's a between white and yellow. You're no better than me then. If you only like a colour because of a favourite food, I guess white is nice too though. And speaking of colours, it'll be getting dark soon. Let me help you up. Lilly offers her hand, which I take in mind to help leave her up from her seat at the table. Its softness compared to mine takes me off guard, as I'm really not used to such casual contact. It doesn't seem to bother her at all though. While it seems obvious why, it feels like just one more ladylike aspect to her. As her hand moves to her pocket, I quickly cut her off. Don't worry, I'll pay for this. Oh, thank you, Hisao. She gives an earnest smile at the gesture, a reward much greater than that of her words. By the time we step off the bus, it's well and truly dark. We make our way up to the hill in silence. Both of us behave a little awkwardly probably because of the day's events. Well, I'm still concerned over Lily's withdrawn nature after meeting with her sister. The fact that I managed to cheer her up even slightly feels like a personal victory. But it feels like the air between us has changed. Maybe it's only a bit, but it's something I don't think either of us realised before. That was a date, wasn't it? It was. That doesn't elude either of us. The question's answer being so self-evident as to rhetorical. Awkward as it may be, I don't think this feeling is bad. In fact, quite the opposite. I don't know what it is. I certainly can't be sure, but it feels like something a little more than friendship. Understanding? Empathy? Searching for words to adequately describe it is difficult. Nonetheless. Would you like to do this again sometime, Lilly, without shopping for presents? The tentative question is met with the same look from Lilly as before. Ah, her pale skin makes the rosy tint of her cheeks just slightly more noticeable, and her face, though still pointed to the street ahead of hers, lowers just a little. Okay. Just a little okay then. Right folks, we're going to be ending things off here. I believe this is going to be the little Hanako birthday party. But this time around, we're not as afflicted to Hanako as we are now afflicted to Lilly. So I wonder how this route is going to go down, knowing that Lilly will need to go back to Scotland in order to visit her aunt who is unwell. But Hisao doesn't know that in this particular time on this route. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you all in the next time of Katawa Shoujo. Things are looking to be pretty emotional, to say the least. Like with Lilly and her different facial emotions that she never gave us beforehand. It's like there's much more than meets the eye. Especially with that Harry Potter scarf, for goodness sake, I can't get over that factor. Scotland! Thank you so much for watching and take care of yourselves.